This one is going to be a little long and convoluted, but I'll try to make it as to the point as possible. So, let's start off by saying that I had no idea what I was going to talk about tonight. I kind of almost gave up on the idea, and I thought I'll just wait till tomorrow. And then I went on YouTube, and the first video I saw was from Caleb Partain, and it said to remember all the things that God got you through and remember the light at the end of the tunnel. And it just sort of sparked some memories for me. I grew up going to church on every Sunday, and we have like Bible study on Wednesdays. Actually, no, we had church on Wednesdays, like the high school and the junior high. We would meet on Wednesdays and just have like a fun night. And then we had Bible study at our house as well. Then eventually, when I went to college, I lost my faith when, I think I talked about this already, but I had a history teacher say that the Bible was just created to control people. And so I lost my family as well because I just couldn't change their beliefs. I didn't want to. I said, whatever they believe is fine, but I can't believe this anymore. And I kind of went off on my own, did my own thing for a while. Had a bunch of roommates, different homes. And eventually, later on, towards the end of my college years, I had gone to college for like 13 years all total, but towards the end, I was living with, I was studying geology, historical geology, and geology, going on field studies. And I had a friend who was also my roommate who was studying the same thing. And he and I were friends for a while. We always have conversations talking about who we think is the one who started this whole thing, life. We didn't really know what to believe, and I had all these thoughts about, should I start over? Because that was loud. No? Okay. I'm just talking to myself. I just had belief of evolution and everything that I had learned in my historical geology classes, like things from 15 million years ago. And well, eventually I stopped going to school, mainly around the time that I was dating a guy, and I ended up liking his best friend, which I'm not proud of. But I told my roommate, and he got really upset. He said that he had liked me, which I didn't believe because he was always kind of mean to me. But over the years, like, I ended up just living by myself in some apartments. And my old roommate, the guy I went to school with, he had cousins that lived near me, and he used to just sit there and come to the parking lot and really just sit there all day waiting for me to come home. He would like bang on my door for as long as it took for me to open the door, which sometimes would be a long time. Him going to the front door or to the back window, back around to the front, and I would just answer like, okay, I get it, like, what do you want? But he kind of made me lose everything that I had. He said that he was stalking me and that he was paying people to follow me, and I'm pretty sure that he had like a clone of my phone because he knew all my messages that I had. and he'd read them out loud and laugh about it. And he kind of just really scared me. So at the same time, I was going through a bunch of health stuff. I'd found out that I had like an STD from my boyfriend, and I had ended up getting pre-cancer from it. And I was at a loss. I was like scared to death. And at the same time, I ended up losing all my friends because one night I was so anxious. I ended up doing something that I probably did for a while, maybe since I was young, but I was picking my nose and eating it. And there was people out front looking in my window, watching me, and it freaked me out so bad. Like my paranoia got really bad right then. And that was before my mind really just took a halt. So everybody around the apartments, oh, it was a firework. Everyone around the apartments ended up finding out what I did, picking my nose and stuff. And they were bullying me and just like attacking me left and right, just verbally. And then one of the, I'll wait till that later. Sorry, I don't know how to talk when I'm thinking, but I I was out front of my apartment one day, and one of the neighbors had came up to me, and she asked to use my phone, and I said no because I was concerned about her getting germs on it or something, and my health getting worse, because there was a guy who had previous to that came up to me, and I'm sorry, I told you it was convoluted. He had came up to me and he asked to use my phone, and when I looked up, his face was just covered in blood. I don't know what happened to him, but I didn't let him use my phone, which I'm sure I should have. It's kind of rude that I didn't. But at the time when this lady asked me to use my phone, one of the neighbors asked me, I had said no, and she got really upset, and she's just like, I'm gonna throw you through the effing window. And I said, I'm not gonna fight you, whatever you do, like, just calm down. And uh, later, the next few days, I was asleep, taking a nap. I was really stressed out, and I was just going through the worst in my mind, a lot of depression, and then my health was bad. So, luckily, I was living alone, but I woke up and I wanted to see if the guy who was stalking me was still looking at my phone. So I texted myself a few things about, I was just talking to see if they would mention what I was talking about, just to see if they saw it. I was just pretending, but I was saying stuff like, oh, I don't like my mom and they're rude to me. And then later that day, I walked outside and I went to go smoke a cigarette because I was smoking then. And I was standing there by my stalker's cousin's house, and the lady who had gotten mad about not using my phone, she came up to me and she started talking bad to me, saying, oh, why haven't you sent those pictures yet? Because we had gone to the movies previously with some other neighbors. And I said, I already gave the pictures to my neighbor, so you can just get them from her. And she got so mad. I left and I started walking back to my apartment, and she followed me, and she pulled my hair. No, first I told her that she was a bee. I said the bad word, and she yanked my hair when I was in the other direction. I wasn't facing her, so she yanked my hair back, and then I looked over and I saw a knife next to me, a really big knife, and so I just thought to myself, I don't want to get stabbed. So I kind of went and shuffled over this way, she's just hitting me. And then eventually I'm down on my knees. I never hit her back. I never wanted to hit her. I never wanted to fight her. It wasn't my thing. And she was just hitting me constantly over and over and over. And I was on my hands and my knees. And I looked over and I saw that my other neighbor was filming me the whole time getting beat up, and I was on my hands and my knees, and I looked over by the couch and I saw my keys, and so I took my car key and I started just jamming it into her Achilles heel, thinking that if I'm going to take her down, it's going to be like David and Goliath, or uh, something like the guy from Egyptian times, Achilles. And so eventually the guy who was filming me and him, or me and her, sorry, um, he broke it up and said like she's gonna die if you keep hitting her, which I honestly didn't feel much of anything. It just felt like being hit by a big pillow or something, but a little harder. But anyways, I got her off me and she left, and I basically just went outside, and the girl who was cousins with my stalker, she she was just yelling at me, like talking down to me about getting beat up and saying that I should have protected myself, and just laughing at me. And I later found out she was a sex trafficker. So I'm glad nothing else happened there. But it was around the time, oh no, sorry. I ran over to this guy's house who was also my apartment neighbor, and he was the only person I could think of to help me right after the fight. And so I ran to him and hid behind him, and I just knew that he was like some gangster guy that I had been told by my roommate slash stalker that he was like the head of the Norteños. And so I hid behind him. Oh man, this is getting really long. And I'm gonna have to start over. Oh, I hid behind him, and I ended up becoming friends with him. But I shouldn't have. I ended up losing all my friends from everybody finding out that I picked my nose and ate it. And that was something I did until I was 27, or until that day. And I ended up losing my job because I was so depressed and anxious. And then I lost my apartment. And so I was going to live in my car, but my tires got slashed. My car got egged, and then I ended up staying at my friend's house with that gangster guy. We all became friends, just me and that guy and another friend whom I knew before. We stayed at his house a lot, and I kept feeling like I was trapped there. My car tires all got slashed again. And then eventually I just went out in my car. I would sometimes, well, around this time I had started to believe in God again. Like, there was a point where I thought it was just like something was the God of the universe, something was the one that created it, and I didn't know what it was. But I realized that, like, with fractals and mathematics, everything is so perfectly designed that I knew it was a creator with a, you know, amazing imagination, or that knew everything. And then I eventually realized that it must be God, and maybe I just need to find out who he is. And that's when he had showed himself to me in that bush. And then showed me the rain with the rainbow after it every time. And it was around the time when I had proved, or when I had told one of the other neighbors that I was going to prove that God was real. And so through everything I had gone through, I wasn't harmed. My health got a little bit better, and I just put all my hope and my faith in God. And I would drive over to my old church and sit in the parking lot anytime something happened at the house, like with trying to run from everybody. Um, and I ended up staying in the church parking lot, and like slept there in my car just like once or twice, and then I ended up having to stay in my car for quite a while. And then that gangster guy ended up staying with me for a whole year. Um, and we had stayed at like Motel 6 and lived there for a few months here and there. But he and I would just butt heads so bad. He would scream at me, and he would make it so I couldn't go to the bathroom. Like, I'd be banging on the door and he wouldn't open up after him being in there for like an hour and a half. And things just took a turn, and he would always take me by this graffiti, different ones. Each of them kind of made sense when I looked at them as to what he was trying to do. He was trying to get me in trouble. He kept doing drug deals like in my car, and like one time he stole my car and got broken into, and they took everything I owned, and all I had left was a red shirt. So I thought it was because he was in a gang and wanted to jump me into the gang or something. And things just weren't good at all with him. And then eventually, like a few years later, he told me he was like my only friend, and I'd go to his house and hang out like once he actually got a place. And then he told me that my stalker guy had actually been paying him the whole time to report back to him everything that I was saying and doing. And that was like around the time when I was living in his driveway in my car. And then my friend kind of just randomly one day found me and took me away from him and just really saved my life in a way. Um, and then there was a guy who had been helping me like every week. He would give me $20 when I was living in my car. And my stalker guy made everybody think that I was like prostituting myself for that money. So I had to stop getting money from him. And then eventually that guy, uh, he touched my thigh, and I had told him to not do that. And he got mad and said that he was gonna me, that he was gonna sexually assault me if I kept talking like that, like saying not to touch me. And then, so I ended up finding a place to live. I've stayed with my grandma for a while, and then I got kicked out about a month later, just because I was like smoking weed and doing things that I shouldn't. And I ended up moving into my parents' house, and I was hanging out with this other guy who I used to work with, and it turned out that that guy was also a gang guy, like in a gang, and he was the rival gang to the other gangster guy. So they had beef from prior issues with like someone shooting at someone's dad. But I used to go over there every night and hang out with him. And then one day he sexually assaulted me also. But in the end, like, I ended up trying to take them all down. And I guess I was able to just get away from them, and I considered that my best bet. And I ended up going back to church with my parents, and I just felt like every sermon was talking to me. So a little bit later, it gets a little bit more convoluted, but I'll wait till later to talk about that. But I eventually found that my health was better, but I was still going through like what I considered spiritual warfare because my mental health got pretty bad after that. But God was with me the whole time, and I started believing in Him like really gung ho. Like I was afraid that the gangster guys were gonna try to jump me into a gang, and I was trying to make sure that I would be able to jump myself out of it by believing in God. And just with that, I ended up believing again, and I became like the most gung ho Christian that I'd ever met or ever heard of. And since then, life has been so much better. It took a long time, but I fought off my mental health like I talked about before. That's about it. Like I saw God in everything that I did, and He kept me alive through all of that, and He kept me untouched, unharmed. And so I had told Him, if you get me through this, I'll tell everybody what you did, and I will just, praise your name and say thank you, God, thank you, Lord. And here I am now, doing a lot better and able to tell my story and confidently tell it, even though some parts of it were really hard to talk about for a long time. But things got easier over time. So I guess that's about it. We'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. Bye.